Welcome to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm Drew's co-host, entertainment writer Jim Hill, and he and I are recording this show on Thursday, September 23rd, 2021. That said, I want to apologize for this particular episode of Fine Tuning getting posted a day late. Normally, these shows are available for downloading on Tuesday, whereas this one, Drew and I deliberately held back for Wednesday. And why was that, Drew?
Well, I hope that we can post this on Wednesday because I have not seen a finished embargo date, but you are dead set that it is Tuesday, so we are going to go with it.
I got a note from Courtney. They said the 29th. All right.
Okay.
So, and the reason we're talking embargo, folks, is the mouse let Drew and I do something cool. We got to take part in a virtual sort of way in the early press day for Disney's Encanto. We got to see 35 minutes, some finished footage, some not.
Yeah, mostly finished, I would say, right?
Okay. Yep. Of this Byron Howard, Jared Bush, and Charisse Castro-Smith film. Charisse is listed as co-director of Encanto along with Byron and Jared. Mr. Howard is probably best known as the co-director of Tangled and Zootopia, whereas Mr. Bush is the co-director of Big Hero 6, but he also co-directed Zootopia with Byron along with Rich Moore. Have we heard, by the way, what Rich Moore is doing? He's no longer at Sony, right?
Yeah, Jim, if you had looked at the credits of Encanto, he is a producer on that and also is like part of the creative team over there. So if you look at Vivo, you've already seen what
this is true. This is true.
What he's up to.
Have I mentioned this is 8:30 at night, and my second podcast today, my brain is fried. But on the other hand, you were mentioning on Twitter a day or so ago how impressed you were with the costumes they did for Encanto.
Yeah. I think that it should be submitted for best costume design for the Oscars this year. And what was interesting was, did you see that Rich Moore and not Rich Moore, Jared? Now you're infecting me, Jim. It's only 5:30 here. Good Lord. That Jared Bush retweeted me and a couple of the other animators really got behind my tweet because I really think that it's something that should be done. And you and I saw some of the unfinished stuff and know how hard it is to do that because we saw some of the in development look of these costumes coming together, and it was really impressive, I thought. So
No, absolutely. And by the way, again, like I said, we are recording this on Thursday, September 23rd, and within the past hour or so, Universal just released the teaser poster for their Super Mario Brothers movie, which is being animated by Illuminations and will be out in theaters December 21st, 2022. Quite the vocal cast, don't you think?
Yes, not an Italian amongst them. Just kidding, there's one Italian.
Speaking of which, though, I love they included surprise cameos by Charles Martinet, who has been voicing Luigi and Wario for the game since the mid-90s. So I love that they find a place for him. So
yeah,
let's talk about who's voicing characters for this film.
So Chris Pratt is Mario. So didn't know Mario was that into Christ, but apparently he is. Anya Taylor-Joy, who we saw at the Emmys this past weekend from Queen's Gambit, is Peach. Charlie Day is Luigi. Jack Black is Bowser. Keegan-Michael Key is Toad. Seth Rogen is Donkey Kong, which is great. I don't know has Donkey Kong ever talked in the video games? I don't think so. So that'll be fun.
Yep.
Fred Armisen is Cranky Kong. Kevin Michael Richardson is Kamek. And Sebastian Maniscalco is Spike. And as you said, surprise cameos by Charles Martinet. And I imagine that Wario will be in there somewhere. I suspect.
Gotta be. But seeing Jack Black as Bowser, all right, that already sounds like fun. But I'm betting the post-premiere party for this thing is going to be held on the lower lot of Universal Studios Hollywood in that theme park's new Super Nintendo World. That's still supposed to open to the public next summer, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's coming along. I mean, it is really shaping up. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, so anyway, to get back to that one-day delay, folks, that happened because we were honoring this embargo the Walt Disney Studios set up. They asked us to not share anything with the public about Disney's Encanto till today, Wednesday, September 29th. And boy, do we have something cool to share. It's an interview that I did with Byron, Jared, and Charisse, where they share their thoughts on Encanto, which doesn't arrive in theaters till November 24th, almost 2 months from now. But you'll hear that on the second half of today's show, after Drew and I finish this week's news. And news portion of today's show is brought to you by Storybook Destinations, trusted travel partner of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. For a worry-free travel experience, please book online at storybookdestinations.com. We did the show last week, and we didn't once mention Norm Macdonald.
I was too upset at the time, I think.
I can understand that. We lost him on September 14th, and there have been all sorts of tributes to Mr. Macdonald. In fact, just last night, tail end of The Connors, they were doing their live show, and there was this weird vamp. They finished the episode, and then they turned the cameras on the audience and held it there for like a minute, and it's like, this is how you want to end the show. And then they suddenly cut to the couch, and it was the entire cast for the night standing around the couch, but they were holding up a sign that we miss our friend Norm Macdonald. So
was he on the show?
Yeah, but at the same time, he was also, I want to say he was a writer during the very first season of the show.
He was, yeah. I think he credits Roseanne with discovering him, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, I heard, obviously I have fallen into a YouTube hole in the days since his death, so yeah.
He was a comic, and the pieces of stand-up he did were absolutely amazing. But at the same time, this being an animation podcast and all, I want to remind folks that Mr. Macdonald was a great voice actor as well. He started down that road with 2 appearances on Family Guy, where he was playing Death. He was also the voice of Pigeon for all 4 seasons of the Mike Tyson Mysteries. That show ran on Adult Swim from October of 2014 through February of 2020. And he also did Lucky the Dog on Eddie Murphy's those Dr. Dolittle movies. But if I had to pick a favorite performance by Norm Macdonald, and Nancy actually and I got to attend a taping of The Norm Show, his ABC sitcom from the late 90s. It honestly would be his very last film credit, which was when Norm voiced the character of Mogans, the ferryman, in Sergio Pablo's just absolutely wonderful holiday film, Klaus. Whenever I get the opportunity to direct anybody's attention to this Netflix film, I do it, because Klaus is hilarious, heartfelt. It's a beautiful animated film that everybody deserves to see. And last week, Matt Williams, the supervising animator for Mogans on Klaus, tweeted this out about Norm Macdonald's passing. He said, "So saddened to hear about Norm Macdonald, who was the voice of Mogans and Klaus and was very much solidified the character's careless and sarcastic demeanor. After the film was released, Norm wrote me a small note telling me how much he enjoyed the character in the film." Matt shared the note that Norm sent along December 19th, 2019. That's the day Klaus debuted on Netflix. And it said, "Matt, saw Klaus today. Fantastic work. In animation, it is the drawing that elevates comedy into art. And this is what you have done and should be very proud of." And again, that was a really classy thing to do. And he was a really, really funny guy. And, Norm Macdonald will definitely be missed.
Here's a Norm Macdonald joke for you,
Okay.
Jim. Mm-hmm. Why do dogs always bark and run at the door whenever somebody rings the doorbell? It's so rarely for them.
Oh,
there you go.
No, he was wonderful. He was really wonderful. But speaking of very funny guys, friend of the show, Josh Gad, is a very funny guy. And earlier this week, Disney Animation Studios revealed that they've got a brand new series of shorts in production for Disney Plus. These shorts are called Olaf Presents, and the gimmick here is it's basically redoing the bit from Frozen 2, where Olaf recapped the storyline of the first Frozen film.
Yeah, I think he kind of is going into the older movies as well.
Well, no, that's it exactly. That supposedly he's going to be talking about classic Disney animated titles, but doing the Olaf retelling.
And you saw they were directed by Hiram Osman.
I was about to put
yes. Olaf at home, right?
Yes, and I'm so glad you saw that. They're getting the band back together. So already this looks like it's going to be great fun.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
again, I'm amazed that these things get produced with nobody talking about them because supposedly these shorts are going to drop on November 12th, which the company is now trying to hype as Disney Plus Day, which I don't like that name. I don't think that's going to work. But on the other hand, I really am looking forward to these shorts.
Yeah. Well, I think what's cool, everybody has their own sort of day, right? We've got DC Fandom coming up. We've got Tadum. I know you'll be absolutely riveted on Saturday by all the news coming out of Tadum, the Netflix thing. But I think what's cool is that you're actually going to see new stuff on the platform on Disney Plus Day. So in addition to them previewing things and talking about things that are coming out a little ways down the line, you're actually going to experience some of this stuff on that day on Disney Plus. So that's why I think it's cool.
You pointed out that we're going to get a new Lucas short and also a new Simpsons short. So they've done Star Wars and
They did Marvel.
They did
right?
Marvel. So
yeah, they say that it's going to touch another Disney property. So I don't know if that's Pixar. I don't know what that is. They have not announced it. But the new Lucas short is called Ciao Alberto. And as you know, Jim, I am obsessed with Luca, so I cannot wait to see anything else in the Luca world. I'm so excited.
Okay. Speaking of Disney Plus, we mentioned on the last show that they've started with some new Spark shorts. We had last week, we had 20 something. This week we had Nona.
So cute. It's so good. Did you love it?
I did. But when the television fell on the floor and wouldn't break, it's like, oh, Nona's not going to be happy. But they had the little post-credit scene, so it's like, it works. It's fine. Don't worry about it. You, on the other hand, were kind of intrigued by, we're not just getting these two shorts, we're getting a feature-length documentary about the making of the shorts, right? A Spark story?
Yeah. It looks like it's kind of a combination of the history of the Spark Shorts program, but specifically about these two shorts and these two filmmakers, Afton Corbin and Luis Gonzalez. And Afton is a total genius. She is so amazing. She worked on the story department of Toy Story 4 and really helped out on Soul in a big way. So I'm so excited to see that. But it is like this crazy surprise release that neither of us knew about until there was a trailer that dropped earlier this week. It's just crazy that kind of thing can happen, which is very cool. I'm very excited to watch this documentary starting tomorrow. So it'll have been up for a few days by the time you're listening to this. But really cool. We'll talk about it next week, I'm sure.
In other Disney-related news, I have been reading Forever Young, the Haley Mills memoir. She talks about what it was like to work on The Parent Trap, which, remember, she played a pair of twins, and that effect was largely accomplished through split screen. But this David Swift film was shot at Disney between July and September 1960, and then released to theaters June of the following year. And as Mills recounts in Forever Young, the way that Disney Studios pulled The Parent Trap off was, in addition to the split screen effect, Disney found a photographic double to play all of my scenes. Her name was Susan Henning, and she was very pretty, slim, and blonde with pale blue eyes. I liked her instantly. She was an actress herself and was fun to have someone hang out with and rehearse with, but it must have been galling for her at times never being able to show her face on camera. But she was a really good sport and never complained about it. If you watch the film, you can easily tell who's who from the back, because Susan has much longer legs and a longer neck than me. And she's also got a dainty little nose, unlike mine. So the poor girl had to wear a rubber replica of my nose stuck in her face all day. Now, the reason I shared the lead up to this story is because, just reading through this book, and then suddenly Drew in my office in LA enters the story. So here we go. When Susan and I were both dressed identically, same wigs, the lot, we used to go out of the studio during a lunch break to Bob's Big Boy hamburger joint in Burbank and pretend to be real twins. I always dreamed of being a twin. It was tremendous fun, but I suspect not quite as so much for Susan trying to eat a hamburger while breathing furiously through that awful rubber nose at the same time. So anyway, Drew, you wanted to talk about this year's Animation is Film Festival?
Yeah, have you ever been to this festival, Jim?
I have not, but I have to admit, just from the lineup, if I weren't already in Orlando on the dates, October 22nd to the 24th at the TCL Chinese 6 theaters, I definitely would go to this. I mean, what a lineup.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I went once before. I actually did a Q&A for an anniversary screening of Untouchables, where we also previewed Untouchables 2 and showed the raccoon fight, which was very cool. But yeah, I mean, there are even, you listed a few movies in the notes. There are more movies. I think The Deer King is there as well. I mean, you could just sit there all day and watch these great movies. And what I really like about it is that so many of the movies have never been really in theaters. So if you want to see Vivo or Mitchell's versus the Machines or Luca, you can go see that, along with a presentation about the making of Encanto. Belle, which is this movie that you and I have been talking about for months, seemingly, that is a combination of Japanese animation as well as backgrounds from our friends at Cartoon Saloon, which we love. And yeah, it looks really great. And Summit of the Gods, which we've talked about. Where is Anne Frank, which is getting a lot of great buzz. I mean, it is stacked. If you want just a nonstop main line of animation goodness, this is where you got to go.
It's the very best of the past year. Plus
new stuff.
Yeah, I'm in the wrong coast at the wrong time, but next year I'll definitely do this. Speaking of great stuff coming up next, can you please explain to me how you first learned about Adventure Beast? It's this new adult animated comedy which will be showing up on Netflix on October 22nd.
Well, I first saw it, I must say, when I am very lucky to have a preview row of my Netflix, which populates with new stuff that hasn't come out yet. And I saw this on there and I thought, that's interesting. But I didn't know what it was until Joe Rohde, who is our friend from Walt Disney Imagineering, now at Virgin Galactic, shared it on his Twitter, which I thought was really funny and fun. Did you like the trailer?
Well, first of all, given that Joe is the guy who gave us Disney's Animal Kingdom, I get why he might be a fan of the lead character of this thing, Bradley Trevor Grieve, who takes his animal activism to the next level. But oh my God, it's got great animal factoids along with really kind of offensive but really funny animation.
Yeah.
It looks like it'll be great fun. I cannot wait to see this.
Yeah, I think that October 22nd, actually, they just announced too, is also the release date for Inside Job, the new Netflix series that's being produced by Alex Hirsch, our friend from Gravity Falls. So,
wow.
Yeah, I may or may not have seen some of this show already, Jim, and I may or may not recommend it strongly. So whenever I can talk about it, I will be less obtuse. But there's a lot of great animation coming to Netflix over the next few months. So people should get ready.
Cannot wait. Now, speaking of pretty extreme pieces of animation that feature animals, what did you make of the trailer for Marvel's Hit Monkey, which debuts on Hulu?
I think that I could probably do better animation on some cocktail napkins, Jim.
Okay.
I thought it looked like hell. I thought it was so ugly, but it is kind of funny. Hit Monkey is like a monkey version of Deadpool, kind of, I guess.
I can make that work.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And the folks at Marvel Animation Studios have to be sort of breaking their hands, patting themselves on the back, at least this week, because, well, look who voices the character Bryce in this thing, the dead assassin. That's Jason Sudeikis, right? Who just took home the Best Actor Emmy for his work in Ted Lasso, and that
well deserved.
Yeah. Well, again, Hit Monkey is set in Japan and kind of violent. And if you prefer a more genteel animated experience, may I suggest a trip to East Essex in the UK, where Kim Raymond, an illustrator who's been drawing Winnie the Pooh for more than 30 years, has set up, and I kid you not, but it's a bear B&B in the really for real 100 Acre Woods, a.k.a. the Ashdown Forest. Now, mind you, this recreation of Pooh's home will only be available for booking for a very limited time. In fact, I think by the time this podcast posts, the window is closed. Also, you need to be a current resident of the UK to even be considered for this opportunity. But those who want to score a stay in this Bear B&B will get a chance to have a guided tour through the Ashdown Forest, which even includes a trip to the Pooh Sticks Bridge. Now, Nancy, a number of years ago, went over to the UK with her friends Diane and Kathy, and they made a special trip all the way out to the Ashdown Forest. And when Nancy came home, she was telling me the story, but they made the trip to the Pooh Sticks Bridge. And first of all, the area around Pooh Sticks Bridge, it's been thoroughly picked over. There isn't a stick left. So if you want to go to the Pooh Sticks Bridge to play Pooh Sticks, you actually have to bring your own sticks because there's nothing left in the forest. Speaking of sticks, if you want to stick around, you'll get to hear that interview with Byron Howard, Jared Bush, and Charisse Castro, where they talk about tackling some of Encanto's story challenges. We'll share that interview right after this break.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for this day.
Every story you love, every invention that moves you, every idea you wished was yours, all began as nothing. Just a blank page with a blinking cursor, asking a simple question. What do you see? Great ideas start on Mac. Find out more on apple.com/Mac.
All right, listen up, nacho chips. Quiet down, crispy potatoes. This is the moment Velveeta's been preparing you for, and you're not about to crack under pressure. Today's the day to go all in on the drip. Velveeta's Heat and Eat Queso is the MVP of any game day spread, so stick by them, and you'll be golden. Now get out there and make delicious history. No tailgate party is complete without Velveeta.
Before we get to Encanto, Drew, you wanted to talk about Empire Magazine's recent article about the 50 greatest animated films?
Yeah, I love a good list, Jim. I've been prone to write them myself from time to time. And yeah, I just thought it was a weird list. I don't know. I mean, it's very interesting in sort of animation circles that there is not kind of the Citizen Kane, an agreed upon best animated feature. So everybody's list is wildly different, and this one is no exception. And it's really crazy. But you were saying you enjoyed it.
I did. And one of the reasons I enjoyed it is there is, in fact, so much contemporary animation. I mean, don't get me wrong. You look at this thing and it's got the stuff you'd expect. It's got Fantasia, it's got Snow White, it's got Bambi, Pinocchio. There's things in here like Song of the Sea and Wolfwalkers, which I think you and I are both great lovers of the outfit that made those films. This list has 3 Pete Docter movies on it, 3 Brad Bird movies on it. I don't know if I would have necessarily gone with their number one choice, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but in a weird sort of way, I respect it. Beautifully animated film, amazing design. Was there anything that leaped out at you from the list?
Well, I thought it was weird that there were 3 Miyazaki movies in the top 10. I think that might be going a little bit overboard. And Spirited Away, which I think is his masterpiece, is 7th. It's not even the number 1 movie in the top list. I also want to give it up for my boy Rango. I don't know where the hell that is on this list. Also, in terms of contemporary animation, I think Fantastic Mr. Fox is one of the best animated movies of the past few decades that did not make the list either.
Let's acknowledge it. Number 10 on this list is a stop-motion film. It's Kubo and the Two Strings.
Yes, which I would argue is not even the best Laika movie, but,
Interesting point.
I was happy to see Wallace and Gromit and The Curse of the Were-Rabbit on there, for sure.
Yep.
Some of them feel more like obligations than actual favorites. Persepolis was amazing. I'm not sure I would ever watch it again, and I don't know, things like that. Or
No, you're not wrong. You were seriously not wrong.
Or Anomalisa, which I thought was just sort of unbearable. Those are on there, which had a very high regard, sort of critically, but I'm not sure it's going to actually stand the test of time. I was a little disappointed that the Triplets of Belleville was at 50.
Yeah, but it's on the list. I mean,
It's on the list, but you know what? I think The Illusionist from the same filmmaker, I thought that was absolutely amazing. You've seen that, right? The sort of lost Jacques Tati. Isn't it an amazing movie?
It is. It is.
And it's not on there. I don't know.
You've written articles like this.
Yes.
And they are designed to be conversation starters.
Yes.
And we're supposed to debate the points going back and forth. And what I genuinely enjoyed about this was that first time in a while to see this much contemporary animation. And I, to be honest, I am kind of dating myself when I'm like, oh yes, contemporary films like Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast. It's like, yes, Jim, you're very old.
Right.
But to look at something like Inside Out is in the top 10. And yeah, it is. It's number 6.
6, yeah.
I find it kind of hilarious that The Iron Giant is number 9. And for the longest time, that was supposedly the secret handshake film in Hollywood.
Sure.
The whole notion of what's your favorite film? Iron Giant. Okay, you're in the club. We'll work together.
Yeah.
But if you're waiting the 4 Toy Story films, and that's kind of what I thought was kind of interesting, is 3 of the 4 Toy Story films made this list. 4 obviously didn't. But would you have gone with Toy Story in the top 10?
I mean, it's hugely important, but it's sort of like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Do you weigh its technological advancement or its storytelling prowess? I mean, I think 2 is the one that
there we go.
Doesn't quite land as well with me. But I also, there were just some weird omissions. I mean, there's none of the kind of weird 70s stuff that you and I enjoy, like Heavy Metal did not make the list, and no Ralph Bakshi anywhere.
No.
And I also thought it was weird that, Miyazaki was so lauded on this list and Isao Takahata was not, even though he is obviously just as important in the Studio Ghibli family. Actually, was Grave of the Fireflies on here?
It is.
Okay, so he has one movie, but I would have put My Neighbors the Yamadas on there too, and maybe even Tale of Princess Kaguya. Then there are also some sort of seminal anime things like Ghost in the Shell or Vampire Hunter D that just didn't make the list, which I thought was sort of interesting. This is obviously a very Western focused list, which I think you're probably going to find. You're going to find that in most things, right? Like, it's just dominated the conversation.
No, it's true.
What about Prince of Egypt on there, Jim?
First of all, I was thrilled to see the original How to Train Your Dragon on here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it kind of made me sad not to see the original Kung Fu Panda. But I think also in both of those cases, those are franchises that I think the sequels took away from the original.
Yeah, and not only sequels, but like TV shows and, attractions. And I mean, Katzenberg really ran that stuff into the ground in a really interesting way. It also just makes me so sad that Chris Sanders has made so few movies, Jim.
I also was kind of surprised not to see Lilo and Stitch somewhere in here because just from the watercolors, just from the look and the storytelling. But this is Empire's list, not our list, and it did what it was supposed to do. We are talking about it, and would love to hear what the listeners think. Go take a look at the list and see if you agree with, the top 20 or for that matter, the top 5.
Hashtag justice for Rango, Jim. I'm just going to share that. We'll share that on social media.
Okay, we'll do that. Anyway, you got to wonder 10, 15 years down the line whether Encanto will even be considered for a list like this. What Drew and I saw a week or so ago looks surprisingly strong, especially the musical numbers from Lin-Manuel Miranda. We got to see 3 of those, didn't we?
We saw, We Don't Talk About Bruno, the one of the strong girl, and the kind of introduction to the family.
Yeah, this is the Family Madrigal, I think that one was called. But
yes,
as you listen to the interview that's coming up right now with Byron Howard, Jared Bush, and Charisse Castro-Smith, you'll hear about how the Encanto creative team really relied on Lin a lot, especially when it came to making sure how the audience knew as quickly as possible who exactly all of the members of the Madrigal family were. Right off the bat, I'm intrigued by the fact that Encanto seems to be kind of an inversion of everything that Disney typically does with an animated feature. I mean, take, for example, Frozen. You get one daughter who has magical powers and the rest of Elsa's family has to learn to accept or deal with those abilities. And Though in Canto, you have this entire family with magical abilities, and yet your central character is Mirabelle, the one child that doesn't have a gift. Based on the 35 minutes we get to see, this film seems to be about Mirabelle's quest to find a role for herself in this very gifted family. What made you decide that was the kind of story you wanted to tell?
Well, it's funny because we very early on talked about how do we tell a story about a family that's different. It's a little perhaps a little bit more honest about families, about how challenging they could be, especially big extended families where you have a lot of dynamics. And I think many of us have felt lacking in ourselves and our sort of self-confidence in our families and comparing ourselves to others and this sense of kind of self-worth in families. So as we were pitching this idea of a family that has magical gifts to reflect the roles in the family, the one character that always was the most empathetic was the one who was left out, and that is Mirabelle. So nobody knows why, but she hasn't been given a magical gift like the rest of her family. So you're correct; it is sort of an inversion. So our heroine being ordinary is key to the story, and that was the genesis of this whole journey with this movie.
Got it. Charisse, I have to say, Abuela Alma just fascinates me as a character. We have these early scenes where she's interacted with Mirabelle as a child, where she's sweet and loving, and she's talking to her granddaughter about how she's going to get a gift that's just as special as she is. And then later in Encanto, we see Abuela interacting with Mirabelle, who's now, I guess, a teenager, young woman, and there's a lot going on, but there's not a lot being said. She's far more reserved. You're getting this clear vibe coming across that somehow she's disappointed in her granddaughter because she somehow let down the family and somehow let her community. And this isn't something we've ever seen in a Disney film before. And, that sort of relationship with a grandmother and a granddaughter. How did you guys thread the needle here? How much was too much emotionally?
You're talking about that character, Abuela Alma, and she was one of the trickiest, most complicated characters to figure out, because we knew that we wanted her to be sort of this amazing, respected matriarch, but she really, as you learn when you watch the whole movie, she's got some really complicated things that have happened to her in her past that have affected her and made her into the person that she is. And so working on that character was a real psychological deep dive into sort of this woman with a strong personality who would do anything to protect her family, but who has maybe not always made the best choices for her family. And it was really interesting and exciting for me to work on a character like that and think so deeply about her, just also kind of drawing from my own family and the complexities of having immigrant grandparents. And then when the actress who plays Abuela Alma, Maria Cecilia Botero, came on board, she really helped us so much, balancing that character out, her warmth, her sternness, her sort of secret past, her kind of inability to let go in a certain way. And Maria Cecilia really kind of helped that character become what she is, which is a really incredibly nuanced and interesting woman. And yes, definitely unlike any grandma, I think I can safely say not like a grandma we've seen in a Disney animated movie before.
Very true. Okay. Jared, let's talk about the big cast. Okay. Now,
yes.
Going into this, you did, I think, something was incredibly smart, with the upfront, you have that wonderful Meet the Family Madrigal number, and you establish all the family members, plus the house, plus the world, but to a catchy tune. Inside of 5 minutes, you've got everything you need to go forward into the story. Was that a deliberate decision early on, to the effect we have all this exposition and let's hope that Lynn can turn this into a song? Or
well, I mean, yeah, as you can imagine, it's an enormous challenge. I think from the get-go, we wanted to tell a story with a giant extended family. That from day one, we said giant extended family. That's what that's what our target is. I don't think we knew how hard that would actually be. I think Byron's talked about we're like, it's a family in a house. That'll be easy. No, it turns out super hard. So yeah, I think it took a lot of time to figure out how to get this information across in a way that's digestible and entertaining in a way that you'd retain it. And so for sure, I think this notion, there's a prologue that sets up part of the information, but then how do you meet this family? I think one of the big breakthroughs for us was having Mirabelle tell us about her family in real time. That actually didn't come until maybe halfway through our screening cycles. She used to sort of tell the history of her family, and it was sort of a story of like how things happened. And about halfway through, we realized, well, what if she could tell us in the moments as they're happening, Mirabelle, present day Mirabelle, literally introducing us, walking around town and showing us these people, what they do present day. That was a huge change for us. And yeah, the other part of this is just work with an amazing songwriter like Lin-Manuel Miranda, and then everything will happen effortlessly. That's the other big secret that I would recommend to everybody that's thinking about doing this, is that he has such an amazing knack of taking all of these incredibly difficult things, putting them together into a package that seems effortless. Although I will say that it's the fastest song in Disney history. The amount of information packed into it and the speed.
Very
good luck. We nearly killed an accordion player on that song because he had to move so quickly. So yeah, it was a lot.
Okay. Speaking of songs, though, absolutely loved We Don't Talk About Bruno. But what did it feel like to be working on Encanto this summer and then have Pixar's Luca come over the hill, where Silencio Bruno became this thing? All right. And so here you are with your song, We Don't Talk About Bruno. I mean, are you ready for the supercut at some point where it's, somebody mashes those two together
I can't wait.
On YouTube?
It's so funny because sometimes these things are just in the air. I think these independently kind of came into these two movies, and it's like we even went through discussions about Bruno's name was different at a couple of times during the evolution of this film, and then at one point we asked Lynn we had 3 Colombian names for an uncle, and the one he really landed on because of that Bruno no, the sort of the lyric that he was like that one, and so he was very definite about that. And but yeah, it's great. The more Brunos the better, to be honest. But
yeah,
I'm very
kudos to Brunos around the world.
Underserved, I say Brunos are, but let's celebrate all of Brunos.
Thank you so much for sharing the 35 minutes. It looks spectacular. Can't wait. And more to the point, I can't wait to see what John Leguizamo actually does with Bruno. But maybe we'll get to that enough. Okay. Well, thanks again, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks so much. Great to see you.
Take care. Good to see you too. Okay. You were talking earlier, Drew, about the spectacular outfits that the characters in Disney's Encanto wear over the course of this film, which really reflect the craft and the beauty of the country this animated feature was set in, which was Colombia. But you know who also had some very sharp outfits? The Cabazon Dinosaurs. Am I pronouncing that right? Cabazon Dinosaurs. Now, you've seen these folks. You know them. They are famous California roadside attractions. Would you think people know them best from Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
Yes. Yeah, they are in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I think weren't they in? They were in Inside Out as well. Speaking of Inside Out,
oh my God, that's right. Yes,
do you remember? There's that flashback to them taking a picture, and the car rolls into the dinosaur.
There we go. Oh my God, you're right. Okay, well, if you know what we're talking about, these are giant concrete dinosaurs. There's Mr. Rex. He is 65 feet tall.
Holy cow!
On the other hand, we have Dinny the dinosaur. He is 45 feet tall, but 150 feet long. He's a faux apatosaurus. The reason we're bringing these folks up, or this roadside attraction up, is the folks who are operating this in Cabazon, California.
Yes.
Okay, it's off of the 10, just west of Palm Springs. In fact, did you mention these the last time we were talking about you and Katie going out to Palm Springs?
No, we didn't stop then. There's a gift shop in the long dinosaur, and there is a weird kind of walk through animatronic exhibit. Do you know about this?
Yes, yes. I meant it strictly for the roadside attractions. I don't need to go to the Creationist Museum.
Right.
But when you and Katie drove by, did they have different outfits on?
Well, they were au naturel. I think actually, you know what? The last time we went, they might have still been dressed up for Valentine's Day, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, the reason we bring this up is right now, till November 1st, Mr. Rex and Dinny the dinosaur are painted to look, well, Mr. X is wearing a Fred Flintstone, or painted on a Fred Flintstone outfit, whereas Dinny the dinosaur has been painted to look like Dino. But you were saying you actually looked at the pictures and didn't like them, right?
The paint job is not great. I'll say
Okay.
that. I feel like they're a little inspired by the dinosaur that's popping out of the roof of Ripley's Believe It or Not in Hollywood, because that dinosaur also gets dressed up for certain
very
occasions,
true.
Jim. So yeah.
Okay. So is this another one of those who wore it best situations, or
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Which dinosaur wore it best? Yeah.
Okay. So, well, anyway, if you want to see Mr. X and Dinny dressed up as characters in Flintstone, those paint jobs are supposed to hang around until November 1st of this year. Whereupon their parody paint jobs, and that's Cabazon Dinosaurs speak for please don't sue us for making our giant concrete and steel faux dinosaurs look like your copywritten characters. But evidently at that point they'll be swapped out to be something Christmas themed. But again, if you're heading to Palm Springs and want to check these out, they're off of the 10, I guess at exit 106.
Yeah. If you need gas, there's also a shell or something there.
There we go.
But you found out that these dinosaurs have a connection to the theme park industry.
They
right?
do, actually. For a time, very, very, very early on, they were called Claude Bell's Dinosaurs. And evidently, the whole history here is that Claude Bell, who is, again, a sculptor and a portrait artist at Knott's Berry Farm, he owned a restaurant at this exit, the Wheel Inn restaurant. In fact, the moment in Pee-wee's Big Adventure where Pee-wee learns the story of Large Marge is actually shot inside of the Wheel Inn restaurant. But anyway, this was Claude's idea, that make a giant dinosaur that people can see from the highway as they're going back and forth to Palm Springs. And maybe they will come in and buy a meal at the Wheel Inn or want to climb inside the gift shop inside of Dinny.
Oh, I'm so sad I never got to experience the Wheel Inn. Obviously, by our love of Bob's, there is not a greasy dive that I don't love, Jim. So, yeah.
Well, all right. This is going to make this next transition so hard. Speaking of dinosaurs,
what?
Earlier this week, Drew and I got the opportunity to interview Kirk Thatcher, who worked with the late Jim Henson on Dinosaurs, that ABC sitcom of the mid-1990s. Kirk's most recent project, Muppets Haunted Mansion, will be debuting on Disney Plus on October 8th. And if you'd like to learn more about Mr. Thatcher's nearly 30-year-long struggle to get some sort of film or TV special that then put the Muppets inside of a haunted house, well, you're really going to listen to next week's Fine Tuning, where Drew and I chat with Kirk for, nearly a half hour, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, about all sorts of very cool Disney-related stuff, including it was 6 or 8 months he worked on Plecto's Intergalactic Review, right?
Yes. I know you and I are both obsessed with Plecto's Intergalactic Review, so we
love the classics. Okay. So that's going to do it for this week's folks. And like I said, you want to come back next week for our interview with Kirk Thatcher. But in the meantime, if you are not listening to Light the Fuse, you are missing out on so much entertainment, so much real Hollywood history. What do we have coming up on Light the Fuse?
Well, I think we're still in the midst of our making of Rogue Nation saga, so we're going to finish that up, and then we've got, I actually don't know who the next guest is, but we are booking guests constantly, and it's really, really fun, and I think you are going to love some of the stuff we've got planned, and enjoy it, because we have some really cool stuff going into 2021. We have some great stuff, and then obviously with a new Mission Impossible movie coming out in September, we hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we got some other podcasts here as well. We got Disney Dish with Len Testo. We got Marvel Us Disney, our now weekly podcast about Marvel news. I'll tell you what, folks, if you could do Drew and I a favor, if you could head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review Fine Tuning, but likewise Light the Fuse, that would be gratefully helpful. If you could head over to Bandcamp and subscribe, that would be very helpful. Drew, do you want to tell folks how they can find you on Twitter and the like? Or?
Yes, it's Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt on Twitter and Instagram. And Jim, I forgot to tell you, now I'm a member of the Critics' Choice Association. So I will have this godlike power voting on movies at the end of the year for the big Critics' Choice Awards, which is kind of fun. Yeah. So
does that mean what it used to mean in the past, like 1,200 screeners come to the house, or does this just mean your inbox?
I hope so. I hope so. I need the screeners, Jim. I'm so excited about, being able to catch up on some of the things that I missed or, couldn't make it to screenings or whatever, you know what it's like staring down the barrel of an invite to the Fox lot in the middle of the day.
No, I get that. I get that. But at the same time, I also know the way it works today. Here's your invite to the virtual screening room, and go to your phone and get the password and put it, in, and and mother's maiden name. Which isn't, let's be honest, nearly as fun as having a coffee table covered with, well, what do you want to watch tonight? Which film that we didn't have to go to a movie theater to see do you want to see? So
right. It'll make our apartment that much more attractive at Christmas time when people are looking for someplace to hang out. Right.
There you go. There we go. Okay. Not that he'd be showing it to friends. I mean, no,
never,
not at all.
Never.
Okay. Never. Okay. Anyway. Okay. So again, where can they find you on social media, Drew?
Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt on Instagram and Twitter.
Cool. All right. And you can find us on Twitter and Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. And that's going to do it for this week, folks. But again, come back next week. You're going to want to hear this Kirk Thatcher interview.